Hello beautifuls, this is Aromie here and welcome back to Seduce Me Too. So we thought last episode would be the last episode, so maybe this one will be? I don't know, it seems like this is lasting for a long time. I stared wide-eyed at her, feeling her energy surge in my body and seeing her smirk grow with each step she took towards me. Her eyes were glistening with sadistic rage.
Maybe that's what we'll do with you. You can be my son's favorite plaything. He'll always have a source of energy and will become powerful enough to completely rule over this world with an iron fist while you get to live. Would you like that?
My mind began to flash back to the nightmare I had of Matthew staring at me with a cold, sadistic gaze and smile. I had to fight myself from shuddering as I battled against Zetta's hold. Matthew will never listen to you.
Won't he? I've been draining him of his willpower this whole time. He won't be able to disobey me anymore.
My heart stopped and I could feel Zetta's hold take over as my spike of fear lowered my resolve. She was doing what? My eyes darted over to the throne, terror clutching at my heart. He was going to obey her? I looked to Matthew to see the chains disappear from his body as he slowly stood, his head down with his bangs shielding his eyes. I became wide-eyed as he slowly descended the dais and began to walk towards his mother in a zombie-like fashion. Zetta looked over her shoulder at her son and chuckled before turning back to me.
Now, be a good boy and chain this.
My voice caught in my throat as I witnessed a blade ramming through Zetta's chest, making her gasp and tremble in shock. From behind her, Matthew lifted his head to reveal his tear-stained eyes. As he held onto the blade that he had impaled his mother on with a shaky grip, Zetta turned her head to try and look at him. Matthew? Wait, what? Matthew?
What?
I'm sorry, but I love her.
Oh my gosh! My heart swelled in both love but despair. This wasn't fair to him, but it was between her or me, and Matthew made his choice.
Seduce.
Goodbye, Mother.
Oh my gosh! Without another word, Matthew pulled the blade out from Zetta's body and swung it around his head, cutting a large gash into her back and forcing her down to the ground. My body became my own again as I crawled back from her falling body. Zetta hit the ground and quickly went limp, lifeless at last. Matthew, however, gripped to his blade and stared at what he had done, both in pain and in shame. My heart began to cry for Matthew. He had struck down his own mother, one whom he loved with every part of his being. This undoubtedly impacted him hard, and I could never know what ran through his mind. I slowly stood and walked over, standing before Matthew as he dropped his blade and averted his gaze to the side. Matthew! I slowly raised my arms to offer a hug, and instantly Matthew pulled me to him and pressed my body against his, bearing his face into my shoulder. I could tell he was fighting back tears, but couldn't stop himself from letting some go. Pressing his forehead against my neck, all I could do was hold him and hug him with the same amount of force. It's over now. It's over. I gently ran my fingers through Matthew's hair, trying to calm him down. Eventually, he let his sadness out, making us both collapse onto the floor on our knees, gripping to each other tightly. His fingers dug into my shirt, pressing me even harder against his chest as he wept against my shoulder. I, however, was silent, trying to take everything in. The demon lord was dead, and so was Matthew's mother. The war had essentially been won. I had to burp a little. As the soft rustle caught me and Matthew off guard, we turned to see Settle and Diana leaning against the far wall, slowly rising and leaning on each other to remain on their feet.
Well, that was interesting, to say the least.
Matthew didn't speak a word as he looked away from Diana. Settle guided Diana over with a protective arm around her waist as she looked down at us.
Matthew, I'm sorry for what you had to do.
I know.
However, you saved the woman you loved.
Matthew slowly turned to look me in the eyes as I did him. His face was stricken with tears, but his expression became one of slow acceptance.
She has been your rock ever since you met her. If you had let your mother control you, I would have killed both you and her.
As harsh as her words were, I could understand why she said them. Matthew and I stared into each other's eyes as we took in what Diana said. She was right. I loved him and was happy to have him alive in my arms. That was all that mattered. I smiled and took his head into my hands, leaning in and pressing my forehead against his. We're alive, and we can go home now. Matthew slowly grinned and nodded, cupping my head in his hands as well.
Yeah. We can go home now.
A loving laugh bounced between us as we finally let everything sink in. We were together, alive, and in love. We had won, and we were going to return to the human world and be together for the rest of our lives.
Ugh.
I barely noticed the gagging noise Diana made behind us.
Sarah, take me away from this. I'm feeling nauseous just looking at them.
Settle, however, chuckled and guided Diana out of the room, waving his hand over the air before exiting completely. As I looked around, the room became vacant of any damage or death. There were no bodies or any trace of blood. Matthew and I were alone to hold each other and wait until the horns sounded for the war to be officially over. Matthew gently pulled me close and rested my head on his chest, resting his chin on the top of my hair.
I love you.
Oh. I couldn't fight the smile that painted itself over my cheeks as I nuzzled close to Matthew, relaxing at last. I love you too. It was over. The war was finally over. Woohoo! We're gonna follow her, cause why not? It was good to see you again, though, cause I chose that last time. Okay.
Nevertheless, I never imagined that Matthew's own mother would go crazy and turn on him. At least the demon lord got what he had coming to him. Anyway, Matthew's completely free now, and you got to return to the human world in the end.
Nice.
Anyways, you've been through a lot.
Okay.
And Matthew and you went back to the human world and had a peaceful night in your bed before moving on and getting married. Huh? How do I know? Well, I have my ways. Maybe you should check it out.
Sweet, I'll go. Take me now. Anytime now. The wedding day, which was rescheduled without issue, became as perfect as I imagined it to be. The ceremony was perfect and the reception was filled with food, cake, streamers, and everything a perfect party should have. Our night became filled with both excitement, fun, dancing, and a feeling of perfection as the realization of everything hit me. I was at last married to the man of my dreams. I could go on and on about the wedding and the honeymoon, but honestly, after the war, I was more concerned of living my life afterwards. Our lives exploded with possibilities after we officially became husband and wife. Matthew helped escalate the Anderson Toy Company to new heights with his brother and became a head designer for toys. He began to pump out idea after idea, becoming a master toy maker like my grandfather was. As for me, I began to go through my own success in life, dedicating myself to becoming exactly what I wanted to be. After all, my husband was becoming a master toy designer. If I put the same amount of work in as he did in the demon world, then I was going to be okay. However, there was never a day that went by that I didn't think about what was happening in the abyssal plains. It was a heavy chapter of my life, one that tested the love between me and Matthew. The memories of our final fight with the demon lord and Zeta still haunted me slightly, but it only showed how passionate Matthew was with keeping me safe and remaining as my own. I was blessed to have him as mine after everything we went through. Still, I was confident that we would get through it and stay together no matter what came our way. Demon, devil, whatever, it didn't matter to us. We were unstoppable together. A moment to myself was all it took to remember everything that went on during my time in the abyssal plains. It was a heavy part of my life and chapter I would never forget for as long as I lived. Still, there were some fun moments while others only proved to me how strong I was, and how strong the love me and Matthew had was. It was a blessing in disguise. I sat at the dining room table looking over the multiple photos that were taken from our wedding. There were so many goofy smiles, embraces, and tear-jerking moments that spanned through every picture. I felt myself grinning at the sight of each one, remembering vividly each moment as it was shot, and captured in a nostalgic euphoria. I almost wanted to go back in time and relive it all over again, just to feel the emotions run through me once again the first time through. What do you think, Simon? I looked to my furry friend, pointing at an image that managed to catch him jumping for the bridal corridor in his surprisingly human form. How he managed to learn that, I would never know, but I was excited to have him as a guest instead of just my lucky charm. Simon wobbled over from his spot looking at the image and gave me a silly grin. It still looked a little evil, but I had begun to recognize which of his smiles were actually filled with ill intent and which were genuine. I giggled and slid it over to him, picking it up off the table and handing it to him and watching him sit back on his fluffy tail, looking at it in awe. I guess its pictures were still a wonder to Simon since they didn't move. Shaking my head, I began to slowly pile the rest of the images together, eager to store them away for the future and frame some up for just the sake of the memories. As I did, Matthew walked into the room, hands behind his back with a smile. "Oh, Hey, Matthew.
Hey, what you doing?
Oh, I was just looking at our wedding photos. I got a bit nostalgic, you know? Matthew nodded and walked over, looking over them over my shoulder. I, however, attempted to be sly and look over his in return and try and glimpse at what he might have been hiding behind his back. To my surprise, there was nothing there, making Matthew smirk and laugh.
Look, I know I have a nice butt, but you don't need to try and sneak a peek at it, okay?
Alright. Oh my god, Matthew! I gave Matthew a playful slap on the shoulder as both of us began to laugh wildly at the joke. Matthew was the first to calm down, wrapping an arm around my shoulder and continuing to look at the pictures.
Man, it's been like, what, a couple months since the wedding, right?
Yeah, how time flies. I laid my head on Matthew's shoulder, letting my emotions drift into a state of calm and serenity in his half embrace. With a chuckle, Matthew lowered his head and kissed on... I want to burp because I'm consuming so much air at once, but it's not coming out. Matthew lowered his head and kissed the top of my hair before nuzzling it with his cheek.
I still remember it. Oh, I was so nervous saying my vows.
No, I wonder what he actually said in his vows. Me too. It was like a dream from long ago. Both of us revealed in the memory of us exchanging vows and saying I do to one another. I could feel the rush of happy realization wash over me as I burned to myself. Matthew was my husband. Matthew grinned before kissing my temple and standing up straight, placing his hands behind his back once again. When he brought them forward, I was shocked to see him bring around a gift box, beautifully wrapped and tied with a bow. Huh? Matthew, what is this?
Something that I think you and Simon will like.
Oh man, I have a share with Simon? What the heck? Simon perked up at the sound of his name as I straightened up in my chair, now beyond curious of what was in the box. As Matthew slowly unwrapped it, I gasped at what popped out of it. Is it Simon's girlfriend? Another doll? This is not for me. Bursting from no open top was a fluffy doll that almost looked like Simon, but with a bow on its head and a cute curl in its fur. It looked around and hopped onto the table, skittering over to Simon. Of course, Simon brandished his toy knife, but stopped as the doll came up close and sniffed at him, grinning at him and hopping around him excitedly. A couple of sniffs, Simon caused him to do the same to his new friend.
I figured since we're married and stuff, maybe it was time to get Simon a playmate of his own. You know?
Aww. I wish I could see it. I can't really see it. I smiled as the two furry dolls bounced around each other, now excited for their new company, and stood walking over to Matthew. He lowered the box and wrapped his arms around me, grinning down at me as I nuzzled my nose to his. You're the absolute best, you know that?
I do my best for you.
Aww. Matthew raised his hand and brushed a strand of hair behind my ear before cupping my cheek. I felt his warmth radiate from his hand, causing me to lean into it and smile. I love you, Matthew. I love you so much.
I love you too, more than anything. And I'll always be here with you, working to keep a smile on your face.
That's adorbs. He's adorbs. I couldn't stop my smile from growing before leaning in and kissing Matthew lovingly, feeling him kiss back with the same amount of love and passion I had. He would always be here with me, and no one would be able to take him away. I would be here, arms wide open for him, and I would fill him with my love for as long as I lived. And that was my perfect happily ever after. Ending, my love for you is endless. Endless? Alright, we're not gonna... Yeah, not gonna go through that, but... I want to look at the picture. Gallery. Matthew. Oh, we're missing one. What is that? Oh, look at her. She's adorable. Simon would love her. But that's it for Matthew's route. Yay, completing. So we officially got 2 endings now. I'm pretty sure that's a good ending on Matthew. Pretty sure it has to be, right? I think so. My love for you is endless. The other endings is never trust a monster and the last one standing. So my love for you is endless is probably the best ending. And we got a letter after that. I think the letters open up to the bonus room. I was trying to... Okay. The bonus, where we type that secret password. But I don't even know if I should even click the bonus. I don't know if you guys are interested in that. I mean, it's kind of like a secret thing to make you guys go get the game yourself. I don't know. So I'm not going to touch that bonus stuff. But now that Matthew is complete, we're going to go to Sam. This is Sam, right? Sam? Sam. I think it's Sam. Sam, James, Eric. And someone did ask for Diana. But I'm not really interested in Diana's route. So, like, I'm not a big fan of Diana's route. Maybe because I haven't really tried it in Seduce Me 1. Did she even have a route in Seduce Me 1? If she did, I did not totally do it at all. But my main focus is just the main guys, so I will be doing all of them. For Diana, I'm not sure if I will be doing it or not. So if I feel up to it, I will do it. But if I don't, I'm sorry for the ones that did want to see Diana's route. So thank you guys for watching. Stay beautiful, and we're gonna head towards Sam's route. So for you Sam fangirls, get ready for your heart to explode. Thank you guys for watching. Stay beautiful, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.